strategy for almost all businesses these days, selling products and services online. If you're not online, if you're not mobile, you're probably not doing the business you can. So that's why we're here to talk to you today. And we're going to be talking, of course, about how websites succeed in the e-commerce space. So welcome again. And we do this every Tuesday, so we're happy to be doing it again this Tuesday. Count our blessings and give our thanks. Let me just introduce you quickly. Clearly, I'm the guy on the left, but more importantly is our presenter, Mary Putnam, on the right. She's the owner and co-founder, or scratch that, the founder of Design Your Site. Let me just do a little housekeeping here first so that we can make sure this time is worth your effort. It says an hour, but this won't take an entire hour, but we do appreciate your time, and we want to make this valuable to you, and I describe that as calling it actionable. What can you do with the information you're going to learn from Mary today? Of course, what you can do is make money on your website, but let's encourage you to ask questions through the chat feature or the question feature on your user interface. Obviously, the questions is what it's set up for, the questions tool, but whatever is most intuitive for you, we monitor both, and by all means, feel free to ask a question. And this will be readily available online, so you may be watching online at a later date. You can always email me, and I will refer your questions to the resident expert, Mary Putnam. You can almost email any business question, and we'll answer that as well. So look for me, Victor, at businessperformanceusa.org. We, of course, encourage you to sign up. Go to our website, businessperformanceusa.org. Look for the button with the B, because we are pollinators of great ideas, and we look to collaborate and grow our businesses so we can grow and support our communities. So sign up. Membership is always complimentary, and we are here to serve. That's what we do. So let me tell you about Mary. Enough of me, enough of BP. So, like I said, Mary is the owner and founder of Design Your Site, and she has a deep and extensive background in information technologies. We know because we work with Mary that she has an incredible ability to view an IT problem and see the solution from a multidisciplinary perspective. She's a businesswoman, smart, intelligent, and really gets IT, so she can look at problems, find the solutions. This perspective of Mary's allows her to bring insightful solutions to the table and communicate them clearly to both technical and non-technical stakeholders. That's why she's really good with techies and clients. Mary sees technology as a great enabler. That's because she uses technology to build a better mousetrap. She's here to make your website or web application work the way you work, not the way around. Technology shall yield to your strategy if you work with Mary. So, enough of that. Let's get into Mary, and I will just turn it over to you, Ms. Putnam, and
okay.
We'll see a button pop up, which is encouraging you to take control of the screen, and then away you can go. There you go. We see your desktop. We see your presentation.
It's coming up. Thank you so much for that introduction, Victor. I always kind of listen closely because sometimes I learn things, you know, about how to communicate with people when I hear other people explaining what I do. You know, for me, it's just what I do. So I appreciate that. Today I want to talk a little bit, and we've been doing not so much of a series, but since I've been working with websites for a very long time, I like to share with people what I know about them. And one of the things that is very important is to convert a visitor to a customer. And that doesn't always exist in the strictly e-commerce situation. As Victor said, I am the chief, I always say chief geek and founder of Design Your Site. And I just want to let people know that I started in the Internet of Things before AT&T or Google ever existed. So I won't tell you how old I am, but that'll give you a hint that I've been around for a while. So when we're talking about converting a visitor to your website to take an action, we call that a call to action. And you'll see, you know, we geeks like to abbreviate things, so we have our own acronym, the CTA, which is the call to action. So we're going to talk about the call to action. We're going to talk about the follow-up incumbent on you as the website owner on the call to action. And then we're going to talk about how you track and or monitor the effectiveness of your call to actions. And before I get too far into it, I want to apologize. I've been nursing a bit of a cough. And so if I have to cough, I may mute out for a second. So just bear with me. I'll get right back with you. So let's go to the first, pardon? So let's go to the first thing that I want to talk to you about, the call to action. There are many, many, many different ways to implement a call to action. The one that most people think about, and the one that actually when I was preparing the webinar, I like to go out and research what other blog writers and authors talk about. And it seems to me like the world is still very, very focused on click here, buy now. Those are old school buttons that we've used forever to get people to take action. But I want to talk about something that's a little more compelling. I think that, and I always like to talk about the goals. So what you have to think about with your website is, this is a sales cycle. Unless you're Amazon.com and I come to your website and I know what I'm looking for, and I know you've got it and the price is right and all the variables are met, we're talking about a sales cycle for most businesses. Let's say that you're a manufacturing company and you have traditionally used distributors and you're moving forward into letting people order online, whether it's your distributors or whether it is the end user. You have to keep in mind this sales cycle. And so all business owners typically know what their sales cycle is. So you want to put those goals in place and you want to ask yourself, what does this call to action on, what part of my sales cycle does this call to action serve on my website? If it's just to gather someone's email address so you can communicate with them further, we're talking about first contact. And then we're going to talk about how you nurture that. So you have multiple contacts. It varies with the product line, and then you have engagement. And so what we want is whatever that contact point is to be able to encourage engagement and be able to see what's working as far as getting that engagement, and then take those steps further forward. The other thing that I think is very important is that you craft your call to action so that it is compelling. Click here now, click now, shop, buy. Those aren't compelling. I'm not ready to buy. I want to know more about your company. What have you got that makes me interested in communicating with you further? So there's several things you have to think about, right? We do give our email addresses out all the time, but we don't really like it, and we especially don't like giving out our phone numbers. There's some degree of anonymity that people want to assume when they're functioning from a website, almost like they think they're secret shopping you, right? So you want to minimize any risk to taking action. We look at that as not asking them, if you're just going to send them an email with a coupon, let's say, I'm not going to give you my life history. I'll give you my email address. I probably won't even give you my phone number. You can ask for it. If you don't make it mandatory, I don't have to fill it out. But sometimes when people get to that phone number, they balk and they drop the form and they say, nah, I don't want it that bad. So you have to minimize the risk to the end user to taking action. And that's sort of a balancing thing and a weighing thing that you decide as you move into crafting it, and sometimes you change it further down the road. Now, your button is really going to be some version of click here. It could be more compelling. We have one for a bridal shop I talk about frequently, which says, I should have memorized this, but it's something like schedule your personal fitting for your wedding dress, which is exactly what the company does. So when I'm working with a client, I'm listening to these things that they do and asking, questions, sort of probing around the edges to find out what that is that they're already doing that we can integrate into the website. But we want that call to action to not just be a very staid and stale comment. We want to give them a sentence. And if possible, put a benefit in there for them so that is even more compelling to get them engaged. Encourage them to do it now. And that's in the statement of how you phrase it. Low risk, you're offering them the benefit, and so there's no reason to not go ahead and just act now. So, and now the fourth thing that I like to put on here is what you should ask in return. I've talked about that a little bit already. Minimize the risk taking. For that first contact, you really don't want to get much more than their email address. If you have their email address, you can communicate with them. If you're giving them something that you have to email to them, they have to give you an accurate email address. I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone that people make up email addresses to fill out forms. They're not going to get the item that you're promising. And that's all in the programming of the call to action. So one of the things I like to do in what I call a well-crafted call to action is you give a person this compelling statement and they click on it. It opens up a form where you're reiterating some benefits. You get exactly the amount of information you need to fulfill the request that they're asking for. So in the case of schedule a fitting, we ask what day they want to schedule it. We offer Saturdays, and we let them choose from a calendar, and then we let them choose morning or afternoon, and we ask them how many people they think will be attending. So these are all things that the owner of the shop needs in place so that she can make sure the experience for the bride. Frequently, a bride will show up with her mother, her mother-in-law to be, and her bridesmaids. And so it becomes a bit of a party. So she needs that information. In the case of a speaker who's trying to promote their speaking engagements, we may only get an email address because we're giving them information about the speaking engagement. With an email address, you can always follow up as the sales cycle moves forward and ask more information that gets added into what you've already gathered. I'm getting kind of ahead of myself here, so let me go into the next section, which is part 2, which is what you have to do as a website owner to follow up on the call to action. So the initial one is, I always say deliver what you've promised. If you've promised to send them a free ebook, the mechanism for that is they fill out the form, they click submit, we email them at the email address they gave us and give them a link back to the PDF where they can download it. And we can track all that. We can tell who's asked for it and have they opened the email and done the download. So when you've delivered what you've promised, then you've developed credibility with the person the visitor to your website. I'm just going to keep referring to them as the visitor to your website. They have that first initial piece of information from you. Let's say it's a PDF of some sort or a coupon or something that you've delivered by email. Within 30 days, you can send them another email where you're taking them further down the sales cycle. And those are all just as variable as your business is, but you're opening up the dialogue. You know that they've requested, let's just say in this case, they've requested an ebook that helps them understand how to get referral business for their or whatever business they have. And so you'll have a secondary piece that you can offer them if they give you more information. Sometimes, in the case of this speaker engagement, it's important for her to understand that, is this someone who's acting on their own, or is this someone who's planning an event for a corporation or a convention or something like that? So you can start asking those questions as you send out that secondary piece of information. I think, Victor, you've done quite a bit of this in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's we might start with demand generation, but what you're talking about is lead nurturing classically, and it's developing a relationship and providing relevant content that address 4 issues. Number 1 is their priority, and by offering a broad selection of information they can download, or what pages they look at, or what products or services or pricing, you can begin to determine what their priorities are by the information they look at. Then you want to certainly keep future communications relevant to that priority. So you're really starting to build a profile on those individuals. And you always want to be invaluable. So in other words, you want to be the thought leader, you want to be the premier service provider in your category. So priority, relevant, and invaluable, and of course make it always easy to work with. I do have a question for you, Mary.
Okay.
Since I'm already on a roll here, just a question from the audience, and I'm looking for pulling it up. Quote, should you always take in data in a series of small steps to make it more palatable?
Yes. Go ahead. And?
So that's it. So you take in, if you want a full contact profile on this individual, name, title, address, phone number, email address, should you bite off those chunks in small amounts with each little visit?
So there's a couple of different strategies that could be followed in that case. And in the past, and I'm sure we've all encountered this at one time or another on the internet, you would maybe be making a small purchase, and the next thing you know, you've filled out 3 pages of information before you even get to giving them your credit card. And so that's a bit overwhelming. And what we like to do, what we've done in the past for clients, is break that up. Because sometimes you do need, example, we did an application for a voice over IP company in Michigan. And so there was quite a bit of information they needed because they were gathering technical data. Rather than hit the end user with this huge list of information that was needed, which could have been overwhelming, we broke it up into logical segments, and we gave them a clue that it was they were on page, I don't remember now, but let's just say 1 out of 5, 3 out of 5, so that they knew how far along in the process they were going. We also tried to keep all of that form information just right there inside the screen viewing area, and not where they would be doing a lot of scrolling down. And that seemed to be pretty helpful. Hopefully that answers the question.
I think that works. Yeah, that works very well. One other technique, you need the right vendor to work with, but you can subscribe to service and set up a progressive form. So the form will offer a new data field each time that visitor comes back to your website and is recognized by a cookie. So your system, your CRS system in your database will say, okay, we already have their email address. Let's ask for the phone number the next time, the zip code next time. So on each download of information, you can steadily build up their profile and ask one more data point each time they do it. Just another thought.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it goes back to your goals and what is it that you really need from this person to move them through the sales cycle. That's how I see that, right? I don't know that I always need to know their company title. So it's very unique and very dependent on what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. And so those tools have flexibility for you to define what those are. Okay, so, and we've sort of already covered this third point, nurture the visitor, by making sure that we understand where they're at in the sales cycle, what their needs are, what they're really looking for, and making sure that we are answering that, giving them the information that they need to make the decisions to move forward. I'm not going to talk about this graph right now. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I think it's in the next one. So let's see here. Yeah. So the last thing I really want to talk about, and I do talk about this frequently, is that we have so many tools available to us through the internet for tracking effectiveness. It's actually taken, and I'm going to use the word advertising, taken advertising to a new level. In the past, when somebody would put information out there about their company on billboards or television or radio or in the newspaper, the only thing you really had were demographics. In other words, we deliver this to X number of people and the age bracket that reads this section and that section. So the internet has given us so much granular activity. You know, you can obviously target things demographically, but for me, you know, the end of the day is, did it work? So I want to talk about that. The things that we can see, and Google Analytics is a free tool. Anybody who has a website can sign up for a Google Analytics account. It's a very comprehensive tool and can be a little bit daunting. Most web and SEO people can handle that for you. We certainly can at our company and do that for a lot of our clients. But the things that I like to look at are the percentage of completions. So when we set up a call to action, we can actually, because of how we set it up, we can tell Google that when that happens, that's a goal completion, and they'll track those for us. That goal completion will also be tied to what keyword they came in from, what social media they came in from, if they came in from Facebook or from Twitter. It'll also be tied to any referrers, which means if, I'm going to just talk about the bridal industry because it's on the top of my mind, I guess. It's that referrers can be any of the magazines that she's affiliated with. It sometimes is the Yellow Pages, which is kind of Yahoo. It can be if she gets a from a keyword. So those are the points I'm trying to make, is you can actually see who's sending you traffic, whether it's organic from your keywords or whether it is from one of your referrers, which could be, as I mentioned, anybody that you have a backlink from. And we can talk about that on some subsequent webinars. But for today, just suffice to say that any place that you've gone out there on the internet, put information about your company and given them a link back to your website. That's what I'm talking about for referrers. And so what you want to know is which of those things are giving you the highest percent of completions. So let's just say that you make blue widgets for the oil field industry and you have the keyword oil field blue widgets and you're getting 100 hits a month or a week from that. Then Google will tell you of all those particular visitors to your site, which ones, what percentage have completed the goals, the exact number and what that percentage of the traffic is. And so what you want to do is start tweaking that to gain higher percentages of completion. And this is where I want to talk a little bit about what we call A/B testing. So in an A/B test, we can take a web page, let's say it's a call to action page, and we can change one item on there. And Google allows us to do this. Google actually manages the backside of this for you. So that, let's just say the only thing that we did different is change the call to action wording with one word. And then we can measure the percentage of completions between those two different pages and see which one's better. And when we get enough of a, like let's say a 5% increase in our completions because of one page or the other, then we drop the page that had the lower completions. We take the one that has the higher completions, we tweak it up, and we A/B test again for a while. And so by doing that, you can actually learn with real life traffic what your customer is responding to the best. And I hope that I've explained that clearly. It's not all that complicated, but it's not something that's highly known in the industry. It's something I first started working with back in 2010 when I was working on some national political campaigns, and we used it extensively at that time. So are there any questions about any of that? Okay. So this is another thing that you're going to hear me say a lot is measure what works and do more of what works. That's really essentially what we shared in the A/B testing. There's many ways to do it. The analytics that we're looking at here, I'm kind of trying to read them. They're a little difficult because I've got them sort of shaded down for beautification purposes. These are real goal completions. You don't necessarily get one every day. It depends on your business. But you can see that Google has actually shown, and I back this up to February because I like to see trends. It's nice to look at what happened last week and last month, but I like to see trends and data to see if they're drifting up or drifting down or if they waned for this reason or that reason. That's another thing that Google gives you in the analytics is the ability to just shift those around and figure out exactly what time frame works best for you. So in this case, there were 143 goal completions. This means, this is bridal elegance, I'm pretty sure. This means that 143 people, mostly women, have actually filled out the form and scheduled an appointment or asked to schedule an appointment. And I probably need to back up a little bit and talk about your responsibility when somebody asks you for something. So if we're delivering a PDF, our responsibility, your responsibility as a website owner, is to make sure that they get that. And I talked a little about that by saying we send them an email, and this is done on an auto response. It doesn't require any action on your part. We send them an email that tells them, okay, click here and download your document. So you fulfilled that, right? Some owners want that information in a database, a table, where they can go back and keep track of it. Some owners only want that in an email. We can do either. We always try to do, number one, what fits the customer's budget, and number two, just what the customer thinks they need. A lot of business owners don't want to spend time logging in to see if a call to action's been filled out. We're pretty typically doing a database along with an email to the owner, so they get that instantly. As soon as your customer fills out a call to action and clicks submit, we send them an email and we send one to the owner of the website or whoever they want it sent to in their organization, so that they immediately know that they need to take some action. If you fail to do whatever you agreed to do, you're losing credibility. So we think that's really important. So in Deborah's case, she can at that point in time email them back. She can check her calendar, email them back and say, you're on the books, we're expecting this many people, and so on and so forth. Or she can pick up the phone and call them, either way. So that's that whole fulfillment of her responsibility there. So if you send somebody a call to action and say, we're going to give you a call, or it's an implied phone call or whatever, you have to make sure that you do that within a timely manner. The sooner, the faster, the better, but definitely within 24 hours. So going back to this, you can see her goal conversion rate, and I shouldn't, I hate to disclose so much information about her business, but she's really doing very well. Seems kind of low, but it doubled her business, which was a significant monetary growth for her. So this year, she's trying some other things, and we're actually going to start doing some A/B testing so that we can see if we can just double that. But we want to make sure that we do it in a manner that doesn't create, I just want to say create chaos for her business, and so that it creates a manageable amount of new business, which is another area we step back into when we do goal setting. So that's pretty much what I have to say. First of all, I want to say thank you to the BP USA team for what they do, for offering this Business Performance USA, not only the webinar series, but also the website where businesses can go and interact and share information and collaborate and pollinate. So thanks to the BP USA team for making this possible. And then thank you to the attendees out there who showed up. And I hope that you've gained something from this, that you've learned a new bit of information. I will say that if you have any questions at all for me, then I probably need to hand this back to Victor, don't I, Victor? If you have any questions for me at all, yeah, this is the old. Mm-hmm.
Right, we do have a couple questions. That is the
okay.
That is the previous.
Yeah.
I'm seeing if I can pull up the presentation, but next week's webinar is on meetings, I believe. And Mary, I'll look for that while I ask you to answer one question.
Okay, go ahead.
We do have a couple of questions. Okay, the input for next Tuesday's webinar is, quote, hate meetings, try huddles. A huddle over a meeting. Remarkably more effective when you pull people together and address a particular issue at the moment in real time and identify the root cause. This is my interpretation. This is not the presenter's interpretation, so I apologize if I'm off track. But things come up at work. There's, quote, a problem or an issue or an opportunity to improve. Pull together a quick huddle and address it in real time, get to the root issue, try a solution right then and there. It's remarkable how more effective that can be and how little time is wasted by reducing the number of meetings you have. It's Cynthia Stewart. She's an expert on quality and processes and just phenomenally effective in improving the way businesses operate and along with their culture as well. But Mary, we do have a couple questions, and
okay, awesome.
I want to ask you those. I'm pulling them up. First one is regarding organic SEO, search engine optimization. What's the best approach? What is the best approach to finding keywords for the website? And continuing, so they have to be different from social media keywords?
Well, in my opinion, what I've found that works for my clients is that you define the keywords based on the business that you want. Again, you have to look at your goals. And Google Analytics is I'm sorry, it's not Google Analytics. Google has so many tools available to us. They moved it into the AdWords. It used to be the Google free keyword tool, but they moved it into the AdWords, and so you can go in there and start putting in keywords that you think people would look for you for. That's one thing. Then they'll give you a bunch of other ideas, and they'll tell you how many people a month search for that. That's one tool that we use. There are, I probably should have a list of all the keyword tools that are out there, but there are services that you can use SEO Moz, SEO Profiler, Samurai SEO. You know, us geeks, we like to come up with all these edgy little phrases for that. So there's tons of people out there that are managing their own keyword tools. I also like to know what keywords are coming from Bing and Yahoo. I don't think it makes that it's extremely wise to be dependent on one source for all of your traffic. So when I do an SEO optimized strategy for a customer, I look at the whole spectrum of keywords. I also don't necessarily, so here's an idea. We have, in Oklahoma, we have a big bank here that dominates the search engines. They're owned by probably the 42nd wealthiest man on the planet. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he has tons of money to throw at search engine optimization. So it's very difficult to compete with somebody who outweighs you financially. I typically just try to do an end run around them, you know, look at what they're targeting and target something else. You know, instead of getting 1,000 hits a month, you might be just happy with 500 hits a month. So you have to go look at that and balance it out and try to do something that's, you know, makes sense for the traffic you're trying to get, and that you are able to position yourself for that keyword without spending more money out of your budget than you necessarily get as a return on that investment. So that's it.
Thank you, Mary. I have one supplement to that. Now, are these keywords for the website different from social media keywords?
I like to use, when I have a keyword strategy, I want those keywords to permeate through the website organically, through the social media site, and through all my referrer sites.
Right. I would supplement that with look at trending on social media and understand what trending is. Now, that's going to be highly influenced by, you know, societal topics and the Kardashians of the world, of which may be no value to you whatsoever.
Exactly.
But so look at keywords as keywords that appear both on the website and in social media, but also separate out trending from social media as well, and look at what Mary suggested with your keyword research. Consider products and services that you may not be offering, or consider products and services that you're offering that really are scoring very, very low on searches. A name change and tweak can fix that, or you may be simply offering a product that is not well valued in the marketplace, and you need to do some strategic thinking about that.
I mean, I have customers who are offering services that may only get 50 hits a month. But that's their core business.
And that's adequate.
And if there's 50 searches a month and they only need 15 to make their business work, then we go for that. So it's very individual. Not everybody wants 10,000 hits to their website. That used to be the name of the game. In my opinion, that's not the name of the game anymore, unless you're a big, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think they've got a whole brand new kernel. I saw a commercial the other day. So unless you're some big megalith that's really wanting to drive tons of traffic, you can be very strategic and very specific about the keywords that you want, and then we can build a strategy to get, you know, if you've got 3 keywords and one brings in 75 a month and one brings in 15 a month, some of them are that low and one brings in 50 a month, and then you add those up and you say, out of that, if I got a certain percentage of that business, am I good with that? So it's just about really looking at the numbers and how much it returns for you.
Well, good advice, Mary. Thank you for that insight.
No problem.
And with that, we will be closing it out. This is your chance to ask one last question for the audience. And of course, you can always email me and I will defer that question to the resident expert, really no matter what that business topic is, but clearly what we're talking about today is website optimization and converting visits to sales. And of course, next Tuesday, look for the next webinar, hate meetings, try huddles, and make your organization spontaneous, adapt in real time, and a cost saver, much more effective and efficient to have a huddle rather than a meeting. Join us next Tuesday and find out what that means and how you can make that work for you. You're going to find there's some people that love meetings and are just, frightened at the aspect that you're going to take their meetings away. But you should give Cynthia a try on that webinar. It's wildly effective. And I shall thank you, Mary, and thanks to our partners and co-founders, Dr. Jeff Stewart and Cynthia Stewart, the bedrocks of Business Performance USA. Bless them, and thank you for your continued support always. And we'll see you online, businessperformanceusa.org, and we look forward to collaborating with you and pollinating great ideas throughout our workplace, throughout our communities, throughout our country, and making work rewarding and prosperous for everyone. Thanks, everyone. We're closing out, and I appreciate it. Take care now.